Hey guys, welcome back to Lit Literature. Again, this is your host, JP, aka The Demon. Just wanted to give you a quick forward again, as always. Episodes 1 through 8 were really experimental for us. We're just trying to figure our format out for this podcast as we're first-time podcasters. Every episode we get a little bit better and we get a little bit more solidified on how our format is. It's book 3 of the Stormlight Archive that we really get this dialed down. So if you want to jump forward, if you're an avid reader, avid listener, go ahead then. Jump forward to book 3. If not, feel free to come along with this ride with us, and we'll have some fun with lit literature. And we're back. This is the Shoutouts again for episode 4 of Lit Literature.
Woohoo!
Talking The Way of Kings, Stormlight Archive. And although, thank you, Brett. Today we have a smaller crew. We have Brett, the director. Anything to add?
Nope, I'm Brett, the director.
Gotcha. We've got Eam the Dream.
Eam the Dream.
We've got Captain Andros.
Straight from Bridge Team number 4.
Ooh. And
You're gonna die.
You're supposed to die.
Pretty much.
And your host, JP the Demon. All right. So last week we talked a lot of Dalinar. We were going through part 2. We decided to focus in on Dalinar's side of things. And
He took up the bulk of that segment for sure.
oh, poor Ben. We just lost the hitman, guys, and I just really want to bring up that when we lost him, he left his lunch here. And when I say lunch, what the captain informed me of was really that's his assassination tools. He left it.
He's gonna have to do some lashing now.
No, he left
Slices of bread,
He
some
left
meat,
his
and some
saltine
chips.
crackers because that's what he eats, flavorless shit.
Yeah. He's going to love this episode.
Oreo sandwich. That's 2 slices of plain bread with 4 Oreos in between.
Exactly.
That's
That's
Ben's lunch.
a hearty lunch.
Yeah. Don't forget about the shank.
Yep.
A little blood for sauce.
So anyway, today we have a smaller crew. We're just going to get through Kaladin on part 2, and that'll get us there to next week when we talk about part 3, and that's where some crazy stuff goes down. Oh, cheers.
Team TDH in the house.
Cheers, director. It is true. Now, this is interesting.
2 light eyes and 2 dark
light
eyes.
and 2 dark eyes.
We're finally not outnumbered. We can really talk about this story now.
Nice.
And we'll do it from a great context. Because we're
Whatever,
gonna be
pick up
talking
that
about
bridge, you
Kaladin.
scum.
Yeah.
No, we're talking about the man who shares our views. Down with the light eyes.
All right, man. So, interesting. We don't need to spend any time on the interludes. We're going to get right to good old Kaladin. And Kaladin's first chapter, which I'm looking for in my notes, it's actually chapter 17.
Ooh.
So I think that we get into Kaladin at the end of the last segment. We could kind of bridge from there, right?
Sure.
He takes a trip to the Honor Chasm.
Right.
And that's a pretty intense trip because he takes a trip to the Honor Chasm. He's basically given up all hope. He's about to jump off the side. And Syl comes back with some poisonous weeds, which he could also use to kill himself or to kill somebody else.
It's like a leaf, right? Poisonous leaf.
Yeah. And she took a risk in losing herself or her memory. She seems to only be able to maintain her growth or her memory when she's near him.
Right.
Almost like she's kind of
Right.
selected him, and because of that, she's able to grow. But if she were to just be a wind spren, right, she would just kind of be free and aimless.
So lose her memory.
Yeah, exactly. So she comes back to Kaladin, and she brings a leaf, and Kaladin kind of realizes then he can't give up yet. He's got to give one more shot. And the only shot he has is to try to save the bridgemen.
Right.
Now, he hasn't figured out how to do that yet, clearly. But he actually throws the poisonous reads away. And
I thought that
Yeah,
that
she
scene
like
was
she
really,
like mentioned how she felt like it was so important because he was protecting him, but really he just kept him because he was a soldier and he's used to just keeping weapons.
Having a
and
weapon,
he was
yeah.
thinking maybe he'd poison.
gonna
his-
use it to kill
his,
that guy and escape.
slave master. Yeah,
which is really awesome. And I think
but
it's
she
really
was
cool
like,
that
oh, it felt so important.
it really brings out the fact that Syl is very childlike and naive. And she
Yeah.
really wanted to appease him or try to bring happiness back into his life because she's used to seeing him content or happy or doing things, I guess.
doing.
Which is really awesome. I thought that scene was really great in building that relationship between the two characters. How she pretty much brought life back and hope back into him, where he had pretty
Yeah.
much had been just like, there's no point in me being here.
It's
Right.
kind of interesting to see her progress. If you think of
it
Callum,
is.
Yeah.
she was just a little spren in the beginning that was playing tricks and then started following him around. And then I think through this particular storyline, she starts to say, I know what death is. I know what certain things is. I know what a lie is.
Sarcasm.
I know what
Yeah.
sarcasm
Yeah.
is. She's starting to just kind of change.
Which is really interesting 'cause she's like excited but scared at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. With awareness and consciousness comes all the good and all the bad.
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely for the benefit of this story because their relationship of growing together is really pretty adorable, I have to say.
She's a great relief for his story.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
Manny. I completely agree.
Well, it's kind of like when she's like, I need to leave. And he's like, he suddenly realized, like,
No, don't go.
no.
How
much
much
he
he
likes
likes
her.
her.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, there's only one thing that I have.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah. Did anybody else think that it's interesting that her name is Syl and she's a wind spirit?
That definitely immediately caught my attention just because Syl is like Sylvan, like,
Sylph.
you know. Yeah,
In
Syl.
like other
Yeah.
video games, it's like wind. So
right.
her name is like
a-
literally just like
a wind spirit.
Yeah.
she gets a name. That's one thing that happened, right? You
Yeah.
can't have one. That's part of it. We call
What
her
was her
Syl.
full name again? Does anybody remember that?
That's a good question. I don't think I
I
do.
don't.
We'd have
It
to
is.
look back at that.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Let's edit in the real answer.
Yes.
Brett or Jeff, you could just edit in and you could just go like, it's Syl, and then just edit out all the rest of this.
Brett will go, so does anyone remember what her real name is? Cut.
Yeah.
Red blank. Sylvania or something.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we'll do for that part
Yeah.
right there.
Sylphrena.
Sylphana. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Still self.
Yeah,
saying.
Yeah.
for sure.
But clearly there's some big importance there. And it leads Kaladin to the right decision, which is to, I don't know, accept death because they're bridgemen and they're going to die. He basically accepts it, and then he goes back and he says, well, I'm going to die at least trying to make something of this.
Right.
And
I feel like it's the opposite. He learns not to just accept death and find a reason to live.
so I think he finds a reason to live, but to do so, he has to accept the death. Because when he comes back to Gaz, he goes, I died there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
He goes, I died there. So, like, you can't take anything
Away from
You
me,
can
right.
kill me now. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
I've already accepted death. So, basically.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So what he did is he kind of accepted the fact that there's probably not a better outcome than death in this instance.
Right.
So he's going to go and make the best that he can and try to save these people.
He figured, I think, that there's worse outcomes than death, which
Yeah.
is being a soulless living being without
Yeah.
without any reason for life.
Well, like these bridgemen, he would constantly see them, and between bridge runs, they just like lay there,
Yeah.
dead,
Yeah.
motionless.
See, Sanderson
Lifeless.
does a phenomenal job giving you a real intimate outlook at the life, the very very brief life of a bridgeman.
Yeah.
They basically have no hope whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like they're you know, they have no chance for freedom because the amount of pay that they make to buy their freedom is just so ridiculously small. It doesn't even, and that doesn't even really matter because it seems like at most the Bridgemen in Team 4 can really only, if they're lucky, they can really only survive 2 or 3 battles at most anyway.
Yeah.
So
well, they said in Kaladin's storyline, he's the longest living Bridgeman in Bridge 4 at 3 weeks or something like that.
yeah,
2 or 3 weeks.
He is storm blessed.
pretty dark for him.
And I feel like the way that he has brought these characters up and how they, like, you kind of have an idea as to how they got there because they're all kind of either thieves or assassins or deserters or things like that. There's a conflict that I have sometimes with kind of getting close to some of these characters, like pitying them, and then also feeling like I shouldn't pity them because they're here for a reason. But then you're like, well, is Kaladin here for a reason? I don't know. It's just like a whole bunch of conflict that you get.
As an awesome side note to that, Manny, I completely agree. And as a reader, I feel right like I'm in the shoes of a Bridgeman because Sanderson will start going into details about all these other Bridgemen that Kaladin meets.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I really even want to remember these people? Because they're all going to die anyway.
Yeah.
Just like you're like really there. So I think Sanderson does an awesome job of giving you like the full depressive outlook of the Bridgeman.
Also going back to what Manny said a little bit, I agree with you, Manny. Like, I kind of feel the same way, but there's also a part of me that feels like I truly do believe that good people can do terrible things based on experience or point of view. And sometimes if I get close to a character, it's more related to, do I feel like this person is that person still, or do I feel like they're a different person? Like Jaime Lannister from Game of Thrones is a good example, like where you kind of start to not hate him as much towards the later seasons and even start to like him, even though he's still kind of a bad dude. But you know, he's not. You feel like he's not the same guy because of what he went through, and sometimes experiences like being a Bridgeman could maybe turn some of these people and just realize, man, that stuff that I thought was so important really isn't. You know.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll say I don't know how he does it, but I haven't read many books where I've literally felt so hopeless.
Yeah.
And I've read a lot of books, man. This character is definitely going through some hopeless times. Like it almost feels like I'm reading one of those historically accurate, terrible books about
concentration camp
like
survivor.
reading about a concentration camp survivor or something. And Sanderson is doing a phenomenal job, just making me like, ooh, shit. You know, this shit is nasty. It's quite bad.
It's intensifying the relationship that you have with Kaladin because it feels like all of his interaction with all these people is brief but intensified because of how short it is that he feels like he needs to speed things up that normally would take time to progress because they don't have a very large lifespan according to the history of Bridgeman, or especially Bridgeman 4, which I think is great. And I agree with you. I feel like the book really had me question the fact that instead of being like so quick to judge them, I should be a little bit more open. Like, is there an ability for them to
redeem themselves,
or even just like change and or even take into the perspective that maybe the people that we think aren't necessarily bad people may not necessarily be, but we just feel like we have to feel that way because of society pressures or things like that. I don't know. It's crazy. I like it.
So getting into his scoop then, basically what happens, he comes back from the honor chasm, basically threatens Gaz, but also offers to bribe him a portion of his cash, his payment. He says, I want to receive it. I'm not buying my freedom anymore. Give it to me. He gives him a fifth of it every time, and he's going to take the rest and start to do things. And the first thing he does is he goes and he buys bandages.
Well, really quick, Jeff, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to point out how awesome that little beat was when he made him give him all of his money.
Oh, yeah.
And he thought that he was like kind of like going back on their deal, and then he's just like, I just wanted you to remember that I am giving this to you. You are not keeping it from me. You know?
Yeah.
I just thought that was such a cool little point of view thing that he added in there to really let him know where this is coming from and who he needs to protect to keep getting it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a testament to the intelligence and amazing leadership of Kaladin.
And his resolution.
He makes him give him all the money, then gives him the one because you're not keeping it.
I'm giving
reminding
it to
that.
you.
I'm giving it.
There's
to
a
you.
difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
It's
There's
a bit
big
of a
difference.
threat. There's a bit of a threat in it too. Like,
Oh, yeah.
if you just try to keep this, no.
It's interesting though, because it gives you perspective on the way that we look at how we word some things too. Because you're like, technically, you would think that's the same thing, but really, it's not. In this case, it's
not.
completely different.
Right.
It's very.
Yeah.
And so the first thing he does is he takes his 1/5 less cash and he tries to go buy bandages.
Right? Medicine or ointment.
Well,
no, it's just-
the element
I
came later.
later,
First
you're
he
right.
did the
Antiseptic,
bandages.
I think. Or bandages and antiseptic for.
Well, the antiseptic was
That comes later.
Yeah, that comes later. First, he just thought we probably we will need bandages. So he tries to go get some. He finds out they're ridiculously expensive, and then he kind of freaks out and leaves. And then he does the training. He meets everyone. He forces them. He basically
get up.
comes in the barracks and he says, "What's your name?" And they're being bridgemen because bridgemen don't care. They don't want to know each other's names. They're all going to die in 2 weeks anyway. And he basically says, if you don't give me your name, I'm going to take you outside and whoop your ass. And so he basically forces every single one in the barracks to get their name. And then next morning, he's like, I'm your bridge leader. Wake up, go outside, train. Obviously, nobody listens to him. He ends up hauling a log around by himself multiple times in a row, and everyone just starts watching him, and they're all kind of amazed that he's
Thinking that
actually
he's
doing
crazy.
this. And then he's not only crazy. This is pre bridge run or
Yeah.
anything. He's just hauling a
On
giant
their
log
day
around.
off.
On their day, well,
Well,
they're off time of the day.
correct.
Yeah.
And so he does this, and he's about to keel over, and then suddenly he gets this extra strength. He starts to get this like extra strength, and they talk about this a few times. He gets this random element of extra strength, which I think I keep wanting to highlight because this may lead into the fact that he might be a little special.
He is definitely special.
Yeah. Of course, Syl is right alongside him, watching him doing the training, so
Exactly.
she may or may not have something to do with
Yeah.
that. I
Suddenly
really don't
he's-
know at this
he's a little
point.
special.
And I think even in this part of the book, other characters mention that they think that he is special as well,
Yeah.
and how arrows just seem to avoid him.
But already he had survived one time, right?
Right.
Taking the
Yeah.
lead, and just all the arrows hit everywhere around him. And when he
I
tried,
definitely feel like Syl has something to do
Agreed.
with that. for
I
some
agree.
reason. Yeah.
it's interesting because when he tried to pay the apothecary for the bandages, he pulls his sphere out and he's like, "This was lit. This had
Right.
this
Yeah.
was lit literature.
With Stormlight.
This was lit. My
This
sphere
was right
lit."
before.
No,
Yeah.
he's like, it was gone then. And it's almost like, interesting. I mean, we've already gotten a little bit of the magic system, right? It has to do with this Stormlight.
Yeah.
These spheres, the cash currency has Stormlight. It's always unlucky to go into battle with an unlit sphere. Where do all these things come from culturally? I think it comes
Yeah.
from the past being the fact that people knew about this. Now they don't, but it's always unlucky to go into battle with an unlit sphere. It's like you have to
Yeah,
have a
because
lit
they
sphere
probably
to go into
used to
battle.
draw from the power of the spheres.
They
that
probably
had,
use
yeah.
that, exactly. And maybe he, in a way, is, right? He could be.
Yep.
So I think...
Or possibly Syl is.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. He's got something very unique going on, right?
they mentioned it
Maybe
a
Syl
second
is
time.
even more unique than we think she is too.
Right. Yeah. They
She's
mentioned it.
definitely incredibly unique because it doesn't seem like anybody has ever seen a
spren
spren
like
that
that.
has done the things that Syl is
That
doing.
we know of.
Right.
Right. There are many probably great men throughout the history, but I haven't heard of any spren like this yet. So she seems even more unique than possibly Kaladin is. Or maybe they're somehow tied in
Right.
their uniqueness. Maybe they're both equally unique.
But so basically that day he goes through the training. You know, he tries to buy the bandages, and then they end up going on a bridge run anyway. And this is the bridge run where he ends up saving a bunch of guys.
Was
right?
it 3 people or 4?
I think he saved 3 successfully. One died.
One died.
fourth
One died on the field,
and then 2
yeah.
died out. But out of Bridge 4, you know, he's doing the training, trying to get him to come along. But then they end up going on a bridge run. After the bridge run, he actually refuses to go down. He just drags their bodies to safety, and using his past, being raised by a surgeon. He's basically a
To try
war
to
medic.
heal him. Yeah.
A new character named Rock helps him move some of those people, and then
I love Rock.
Yeah,
If you smell what the Rock is cooking.
Elsic Lowlanders.
yeah. As previous to this fight for Rock, that lovable horn eater.
Yeah, that lovable horn eater.
Prior to this battle, Bridge 4 always suffered the worst casualties. And as it turns out with this battle, I believe they suffered the least casualties of all the other Bridge teams.
And also to point out, as the bridge leader, he gets the privilege of going to the back of the ranks to avoid the arrows, but he opts to go into the front.
He moved
Taking
Rock
Rock's
out of
place,
the way.
He moves
actually.
Rock out of the way to go
That
into
big
the
guy
front.
would have probably died. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
pretty
arrows
amazing.
And he
everywhere.
knew it.
Yeah.
He knew it too, because all the arrows were
Which is
right
why-
by his hands. There was one that grazed his side.
Yeah.
So
Which is why he opted to help him drag some of those bodies. Super cool.
yeah,
But I'd
the
also like to
stories.
point out that one arrow did graze his side, you said, right? He had like kind of a little bit of a flesh wound, which is, I think, interesting because Syl is kind of described as floating in front of his head. So it almost seems like she's protecting the most important parts of him, but can't protect all of him, I
Right.
felt like.
yeah.
I don't know if she's the one protecting him, but I kind of get that feeling a little bit.
I get that too.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I feel like like you're saying, Brett, like I don't know if she's more special than Kaladin, but I feel like the relationship is really what the special thing is. They kind of
Yeah.
feed off of each other. So because of Kaladin, she's growing, and because of her, he's protected. I don't know, something like that. But I think it's really cool.
Something that I thought was interesting about Rock, the Horn Eater, and I mentioned this to Andrew earlier, but when he introduces himself a little bit later in those chapters, he's Rock, and he's from the Unkaliki tribe. The Kalak is in the middle of that entire word.
Kaliki. Oh.
Kalaki tribe. And I just was wondering about this relationship with the heralds.
If he's a descendant.
I'm just curious.
Interesting.
Be something I'm just bringing up. I don't know.
I seem to like his tribe a lot, though.
Yeah.
I think it's also interesting that he, even though she did not reveal herself to him, is capable of seeing Syl.
Capable of seeing
Yeah.
Which is really interesting,
Usually,
too.
and I thought that was another interesting thing that we found out, because I mean, maybe they mentioned this earlier, but I missed it, but I didn't know that Syl was the one that got to determine who saw her.
Yep. She chooses.
So apparently they get to choose who they reveal themselves to. And I thought that was really interesting as well. But apparently Rock is able to see through that. It's
Inherently
I
is
can
able
see
to
no matter
see,
what.
yeah.
Yeah.
Without trying.
So basically, they survive that. Kaladin saves some people, but then he runs into trouble, right? Because basically, they sneak these guys on top of the bridge and they carry them back with them. And Gaz comes back and he says, "Well, Sadius decided not to string you up in the high storm, but we're not paying those guys while they're down.
We're not feeding them either.
We're not feeding them, and
Right.
you don't get replacement men for those downed men. So they're down 4 men, and on
Basically making an example of them.
down 3 men.
So showing them this is
Yeah.
why
We don't
just
bring
leave them
bridge
there
men
to
back.
die.
Yeah.
And we're gonna make you an example to everybody else, not to bring people back.
And I
Right.
thought that was boss on his part because he started to get irritated by that, but he kind of came up with an idea around it based on the apothecary and what was going on there. And so he gets him assigned to rock duty, which the bridgemen basically get these random duties that they just go out and work to keep them busy, essentially.
From
before they
revolting. To
die.
keep them from organizing and revolting.
Yeah.
Right.
So they go out and they just basically move rocks, collect them, and bring them back for no reason at all.
Well, no, they do bring him back because the soul casters changed that to food.
Exactly.
Right. There's
So
like
it's not
some
no
root-
reason.
You're right.
There's some
Not no
roots in there.
They
they're
find
looking
reason.
for.
Yeah. But they go out. They go out of the cage. And so
camps.
Kaladin gets them volunteered for this essentially
But why?
because he wants to get those reeds. Because his surgical background lets him know, a little bit about what we would
plants.
call what we would call the alchemists or the herbalist.
Yeah.
In the other games.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
much any position
Also, the
that Andrew's
apothecary mentioned
character
it,
is
how
always.
those reeds are
Anybody,
used for that.
Yeah, the anybody that the captain, his character is in any RPG game whatsoever is basically those two jobs. Alchemy and herbalism. So how did you like that?
I really appreciated it. Yeah, I like that a lot. It's neat how the town alchemist had his own. Sanderson really worked out this own little mini economy within the army camp. This apothecary can't really compete with the soul casters, but what he can do is he can provide these medicinal ointments to the army at a really, really cranked up price because where else are they going to get it?
Yeah.
So he's making a profit there.
Monopoly.
Yeah.
Well, they have an agreement. This is exactly why it's illegal.
Yeah, all
the apothecaries decided
charge
what
the same
price
thing.
to charge.
Yep.
Price fixing.
Right.
Yep.
Bernie Sanders would be pissed.
He would not stand for it.
These apothecaries are getting out of control.
So good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had this little fixed price, right? Mm-hmm. And Kaladin realized that I could get these right outside the wall. And that's clearly...
And even better, Syl can help them find them even quicker.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk about using that Spren. That's perfect. But in the end, like you were going to say, right? Well, go for it.
I'm really, really excited to get to the next scene. I loved the scene where the whole bridge crew is on chasm looting duty, where it's basically just like essentially grave digging, where they go down, they descend into the dark
Grave robbing, yeah.
Cavern, into the dark chasms where these battles have been waged, and there's corpses of the Alethi soldiers that fell down there. And their duty is to go around and just collect equipment that would have fallen down there so the army can reuse it. But this scene is so awesome because they really set this anticipation for danger, because the chasm fiends live down in those crags, so they could run into those at any moment.
Anytime.
And they have no weapons. Like, they're just a bridge crew, so they would be devoured probably. But anyway,
I'm not gonna lie. With how long that chapter was, I was like, "Oh, so we're gonna see a chasm fiend."
Yes, yeah, I was on the edge of my seat.
Me
like,
too.
That whole
I was like,
chapter.
who's gonna die? Please don't let me rock.
I think we're all in the same boat on that one. But yeah, that scene is super, super crucial because number one, Kaladin starts really getting some allegiance from a lot of these other guys. Rock is obviously with
Who's
them.
the other guy? The older guy?
Teft is that guy's
That's
name?
it.
He's
Teft.
really starting to get on board. There's another like
The
bard
young guy.
The bard guy, yeah.
There's a lot of people who are in his crew who are really starting to, believe in Kaladin. And there's one scene where Kaladin picks up a spear that they looted from a corpse, and he just kind of instinctively goes through his spear training. And all the other bridge crew members who doubted the rumors that Kaladin was ever a soldier were instantly disproved by that, because his skill with the spear was just so awesome.
Well, it's amazing because I was just doing forms, but he even has memories in his past where his commanders are like, "You are unnatural."
His
with this."
instructor.
His instructors are like, "You are unnatural with this."
But they were so
He's clearly-
surprised by it, like as if they didn't. It's not normal for a person to be natural at it. Like he sees it as like when a child is good at walking. I don't know, something so like fundamental. He's like, why is it so weird or so
does it,
different than I am good with a spear? Which is very interesting.
Which is pretty cool because he has a childhood memory that we read about where he's a little kid and he picks up one of the older farm kids whose dad was a soldier at one point. He picks up the staff and they start staff fighting and he kind of gets beat, but then for a second he starts going like not berserk.
He gets that exhilaration.
He's got that exhilaration and he starts using it and whooping him, and then he freezes when he could really hurt the kid.
because he doesn't want to hurt
He doesn't want to hurt him.
the part of his
He ends up
teaching from
losing
his
that.
father as an actual medic.
But he has no training whatsoever. It just felt it
Natural.
just felt so right for him. So
pretty
it's
cool.
really
It's not
interesting.
like super important, but I also thought that it was kind of interesting how it seems like almost every character so far that I can think of, unless I'm forgetting somebody, seems to be kind of going against convention to go after their like true calling. Like Syl is like kind of going past the convention of what you typically think of a Spren and really growing into something new. And Dalinar is kind of like going after his, thing of like, well, I think we should rule a different way. And I think it's interesting that Kaladin seems to be the only one that's fighting what appears to be his true calling. Like he's fighting being a fighter. He seems to be drawn to fighting and like made for it. But he's like actively trying to combat his
I think part of it is
natural
because he kind
ability.
of is also called to be a surgeon and a healer.
Yeah.
That's true.
He
Yeah.
has duality going and I think he struggles to align those dualities.
He does.
Because he's raised one way and he knows and wants to help people, but he's so good at fighting.
Naturally, he's just good at fighting.
Mm-hmm.
When you look
What
at
I
it,
think Kaladin kind of represents a little bit is this idea that like humans seem to be drawn towards extremes. It's like before he was all about killing to protect, and now he's like, no, now you can't kill at all. You have to only save.
Right.
And I feel like extremes are sometimes dangerous, and maybe eventually he lands in this sweet spot of killing and saving to protect. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it in its raw basics, both of those callings, both being a surgeon and being a soldier, they're, in essence, both of their core purpose is to protect people.
Right.
But they just go
The end
about
game
those
is
very
the same.
different ways, right?
Exactly.
So-
Exactly.
It definitely...
You can really kind of see it. I mean, it's kind of the same thing that's going on with Dalinar and Sadeas to an extent. As far as we know right now, it's like they both seem to want to accomplish the same thing. They have very different views on how to accomplish that. It seems like that's kind of within Kaladin, but he's one person.
Correct. I agree with you wholeheartedly because I feel like Sadeas wants to protect the king by killing, whereas Dalinar wants to get rid of unnecessary killing.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is, and all of that is happening to Kaladin, and he's kind of coming to terms with both, like realizing that, because he kind of went against this whole surgeon calling and went to be a soldier, and then now that he learned what a soldier does and what happens when he actually killed and won, like that he wasn't able to protect the people that he wanted to. So now he's like, I should have listened to my father and learned how to help people by saving them. So he's going to kind of get into a medium where he feels like both of them do it in some aspect, but not to the extreme, just like you said, that he thinks it is.
I think there's something that Sanderson's doing that's ingenious, which is, so with Kaladin he was a soldier on the warfield. And then we started on the warfield. Somebody's getting lit over here, and his name's Ian the Dream. No, we started on the warfield, and then suddenly he's a slave. We have this gap, but then as we're reading, we get little bits of Kaladin's past as a boy. Why is he so good at healing? Why does he know? Even in the beginning, the soldiers were like, he kind of knows how to save people on the battlefield. And we start to learn a little bit more and more. We know that there's a reason that he likes to try to save young people who are brought into the... We're just learning
What
now.
happened to his brother?
We're learning this. We're learning about Tien. We're learning about his past. And it's very clear that his past is going to be extremely unique and really critical.
I'm really scared because I feel like Tien is such a
innocent
kid, like
gives him
spirit. You know what I mean?
Look
Like
at this
so,
rock,
such a
Kaladin.
pure soul.
Yeah, that's a good descriptor, Manny.
And I really don't want to find out how he dies, because I feel like it's gonna be super cruel.
And Kaladin blames himself for it too, so we don't know.
I mean, I think part of that might be just me foreshadowing, thinking that the reason why he became a soldier is because he was unable to protect his brother because he was more focused on being a surgeon, and he left to go study how to be a surgeon. That his brother died when he really should have been by his brother's side protecting him, and that's why he became.
You guys
a
are
soldier.
gonna love part 3 so much. I don't want to get that far on this right now. I'm going to keep it low, but we're just learning about Kaladin. We know that he's kind of got, he's close with the actual town, the village lord's daughter. Mm-hmm. We know that.
Who I kind of don't like. I don't like her.
Well, we know that.
She's totally manipulative.
Yeah.
Well, she wants, as young, you think about it, you're a young boy and you're a young girl, right? We're all young boys, but she's like, you need to become a soldier, Kellen, so you can become a Light Eyes. And Kellen's kind of like,
marry
what
me.
is it? But that's what's unsaid, right? So, but he doesn't get it.
Yeah.
He's just a little kid.
He doesn't get it.
What? I don't know.
Like most men, he's
like,
just
what's wrong with her?
What?
What's wrong with her? Why is she being like this?
She wasn't alive before.
And so, yeah, you know, you get this thing, you know, little boys and little girls, but she's clearly on that path much earlier than he is.
Yep.
But, you know, throughout the
Oh my
past.
crap! Hold on.
real
Can we go
life.
back a half a second?
Yeah.
Because I just thought of something. I want to see what you guys think of this. It's probably stupid, but do you think there's any possibility that somehow Syl and his brother's like spirit are somehow related? They seem to have many similar qualities. Going off and bringing him things to cheer him up, like rocks and poisonous leaves,
Plants, yeah.
and being young and naive and childlike and innocent.
That's a good point. Or could it potentially be part of Kaladin's own mental that's like projecting it on Syl?
That's projecting it onto her.
Yeah, I mean, it could be any combination of those.
Oh my
I
gosh,
don't know.
that's so crazy. I didn't even think about that, Brett, but that's a really good point.
Well, I
Because they
will
did
tell
bring
you,
up the fact that she presents herself as a woman, as a womanly figure, but we really don't know what it is.
well, she also could present herself like a rock.
Whatever she
falling
wants,
leaf
she
or-
takes the
Exactly,
even
like
explains that
anything she wants.
she shows herself as a woman's form, but that's not necessarily what they are.
Or that
They're
could just be
spirits.
why he kind of has this instant connection with her. Maybe she reminds her of him a lot. Maybe that's as far as the connection goes. I have no idea.
Well, I think
Anyway,
if you go to Cal's Pass, we got through a few things, right? We meet the daughter of the village lord, but also I think in this section the village lord
Died.
croaks it. Okay, just making sure.
croaks it.
That's it. As in the medical term, croak.
Jeff, you
And
should
then-
write eulogies.
Yes.
He traded his life for a boon.
Yeah, but what happens is the village lord had loaned their family a ton of spheres. And when he loaned the family a ton of spheres, when he died, he willed it to them. They get to keep the spheres, and the dad wants the spheres so that he could send Kaladin to basically surgeon college. Yeah.
Right.
Which, by the way, you know what
best.
where surgeon college is?
Where Jasna is at.
Shalan and Jasna currently are. The hospitals. That's where the best surgeons are.
Kralov. That's where they're at. Yeah, I got that as well. Yes.
So anyway, they have to go to Krafras or whatever it was said, man.
Kreprath or something like that, no?
Cabranth.
We're going to have to make a
Cabranth.
website and provide a key.
Cabranth.
When we say
Cabranth.
Krofroth, that actually means...
Cabranth.
We got it. On attempt number 10.
Speaking Spanish 101.
By the way, folks, if you ever want to know the advantage of audiobooking a fantasy book, it's because
Pronunciation.
all of those words are pronounced
Yes.
for you.
I didn't learn how to pronounce half of these names till I listened to the audiobook. I was like,
Cabranth.
oh, that's how
Yeah.
it's said.
It's funny because
Audiobooks are the devil.
It's funny because even audiobooking, the words you have to think about them for a second. But then also the problem that I have is when I actually read it, because I do both. I'll read it and then I'll see the word and I'll be like, oh shit, that's how it's spelled. You know what I mean? It's like, whoa. So totally mix and match.
I can't get into it, so if you don't like audiobooks,
At the same time, we'd like to give a quick shout out to
Kramer.
Kramer and his, and
the male and they're
and
both
the female,
excellent. The male and the female narrator are both excellent.
what was her name?
Wait, Kramer from Seinfeld?
No, the guy's name is Michael Kramer.
Michael
I believe.
Kramer?
And then
Yeah.
the woman's name was it Kat something?
The woman's name, it was different from his. I remember that.
Yeah,
I
No, they both
like,
have the
different last
same
name,
name.
'cause
Both of
we
their names are
originally thought it was
Brian.
they both.
Kate Reading,
Kate
Michael
Reading.
Kramer. By the way, you
Yeah,
guys,
that's
as a shout out to you guys, you're badass. I was listening to your audiobooks of The Wheel of Time. You killed it. I know you transitioned into Sanderson's The Way of Kings, but badass. Good work.
And Michael Kramer has an extremely impressive husky female voice that he does,
Yeah.
which is pretty awesome.
Also, his horn eater voice.
Oh
is
yeah,
pretty
his
dope.
horn eater voice is amazing.
Rocks.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, good stuff. By the way, we were talking about Dalinar's potential. Well, I guess we're talking about
Adolin's new love interest.
all the women that Michael Kramer reads.
Oh.
But we're talking specifically
About her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
specifically
his voice
about
for her is
yeah.
pretty awesome.
She's got a husky voice, yeah. And then also the queen, the king's mom,
Navani?
Navani, yeah.
Yep.
She's awesome. I love her.
Yeah, Navani's pretty awesome.
She seems like such a badass, like a boss.
Can we quickly talk about Wit as well?
Yeah.
Yes, please. I love him.
I feel like Sanderson knows me in person.
I know. I was just about to say. Once we assign characters for this book, I know exactly who Manny is going to be.
Wit.
The new Wit.
I just want to say real quickly, I think Wit is an extremely refreshing character in Swords and Horses fantasy, particularly a lot of the recent ones. Game of Thrones comes to mind, where you have very intelligent, crafty, cunning characters who seem to be working with the antagonist in the series. But Wit is that same role, but he's clearly kind of favoring the protagonists of the story, which is a really unique twist on that character. Like, he definitely he doesn't mock Dalinar, but he mocks like Sadeas and everybody else. It's really different.
And he definitely seems to be a character that's going to maybe become important.
Yeah,
Yes.
I feel like he knows so much more than people think he does.
How about him at that dinner?
Yeah.
Hilarious. Oh my gosh. His insult after people came in was just amazing.
Well, the funny thing is I still love. I know we talked about it in a previous episode, but it's like you think about it this way: you basically you could kill him if you wanted to, but if you do it, you relinquish your title and all your lands.
So you have to do it
Because his job is to like lower you.
Right.
It's his job.
I think that's an extremely awesome, like, semi-legal, like, rule that the Alethi have. It's really, really funny.
Yeah. And he's so interesting because we don't know any of his backstory, but he seems to have taken the job in an interesting way. Like, he just kind of rides up and everybody knows it's like this. And the king just kind of likes him.
Yeah.
It's like, I kind of like this Wit.
The king loves him. He thinks he's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he just tears Sadeas.
And Dalinar is just like, whatever, just don't bother me.
Yeah.
But Thaddeus hates him with a passion.
Yeah. But you know what? Even to Dalinar, like, he doesn't really directly insult him that often, even though he was kind of joking a little bit with him at the dinner.
Only because Dalinar actually approached him instead of just moving along.
But even so, he talks to him a little bit real. He's kind of like, hey, just so you know, some rumors going around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yet, he doesn't attack those weaknesses.
No.
Almost like his job is to bring people down. But like he's doing it on things that they're kind of pompous about.
Yeah.
He notices
Yeah, I
that
feel like he
Dalinar
needs
is
to
not
bring
there.
down people that deserve to be brought
Yeah,
down.
right.
But I think he knows who doesn't
right,
need to be
yeah.
brought down.
It seems like the people that he's bringing down and the stuff that he brings them down for is their vanity, especially Sadeas with all his garments.
Yep.
The other thing is he seems way more aware than
Way more aware.
So like he knows stuff he just what he says. He's kind of like, and then he's like, "Hey, FYI," you know.
Well, I think that's part of the character and what we come to expect is that he's very intelligent, so he's definitely charming. So I'm sure that he has a lot of connections in terms of like knowing what is really happening. Just because I feel like people talk to him or he knows where to go. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of like the shady background, but not really. So he knows how to use it to his advantage. So he's definitely more knowledgeable than people give him credit for because they kind of take his jokes or criticisms as him just being an idiot when really he's strategically doing something. Like I don't know. I feel like he's a more important character than we think he is.
Did any of you guys find anything like in his jokes? I was wondering that really hard. Like I was thinking really hard when he was giving Dalinar the jokes about the one eye and I only have one to give you kind of thing. Yeah. You know, those kind of jokes. Yeah. I was like, I wonder if there's something hidden in there. You give him a little light.
I'm sure. I don't.
So in this book, you know how in the first part we got a lot of death quotes in the beginning.
Definitely.
In the second part, we get
for the chapters. You're talking about those quotes in the beginning, right?
Quotes. So no, they're not even quotes. It's actually parts of a letter, an ancient letter. That's what it is. I was going through that a lot. And I think we could probably have an entire podcast on that combined letter.
Sure we could.
But I found it online.
I noticed that, but I have zero theories yet on what it means.
So
I don't know if I have enough information yet, but I definitely noticed that every quote in the beginning was attached to a death timer. So now
I was
not so much.
I was looking at that a little bit, and I don't think we'll discuss it in this, but I will say this. There's no guarantee that anything is in the right order.
Agreed.
I looked at the entire
passage
letter. The entire passage combined together into one statement online. And I'll tell you that I've read Brandon Sanderson's other books, which maybe gives me more of a heads
insight
up than you guys. But what I'm noticing is that these books are directly related to several other Brandon Sanderson's book series. He's got kind of this over in a way like Stephen King does it.
Is it like a multiverse type?
Not even a multiverse. It's all like one world.
Okay.
Based on the same principles.
It's like
gotcha.
So
he seems like is he the writer of the Wheel of Time?
No. So he finished it. But he finished it because Robert Jordan's wife was his editor. And when he passed away, Robert Jordan wrote the end and outlined the whole story. And she selected Sanderson from his other previous works.
Gotcha.
So he finished The Wheel of Time that way. But his other works directly relate to this. I know that there's a bet going on right now that those three guys in the Pure Lakes.
Yeah, the Pure Lake.
Were heralds. Personally, I bet no, and that's because I believe they're actually characters from other books.
Interesting.
Which also reminds me, I changed my my answer on that.
Too late, you can't change it. Suck it.
No,
you might have to do a shot and some push-ups.
We don't have the answer yet. Everybody's in on it, so we can change it all the way up till we start the third book.
I'm still in on it. But I didn't want to give too much on why I'm not in on it. And the reason I'm not is not because of anything that they did. I just have this suspicion. The nicknames that he gave them, I might have a little bit more on that. Those nicknames, specifically Scar, I think's from actually a character in a different series.
Okay. Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah, but I feel free to tear that up and break that down because I have no effing idea. Okay. I'm just simply saying, like, interesting is that I think that there's more to this. And those letters in the beginning had to do with other books.
Oh, wow.
Some of the comments were, there was some comments that made me think a little bit Mistborn. There were some comments in those that made me think some of his other books. And so I'm wondering now, I mean, we know this is about the shard. When I say shards, I don't mean like shard blade. That's part of it. But, you know, there's more to this overlapping world or universe theology, I think.
Cool.
Something to keep in mind. But we're not getting that anymore. That's done. That we got death, quotes at death in the first part. We got parts of this letter in the second part.
And then we got
it.
nothing.
Which I feel like the letter was kind of following the whole beliefs of the Way of Kings.
Right. Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of those quotes, they also kind of had to do kind of loosely with what was going on
Or
in
the
each
characters.
chapter.
I felt like they did, because a lot of them I felt like I was reading them and I was thinking of like maybe a letter that Dalinar would write to Sadeas.
That could be kind of applicable to the story
Yeah.
in that exact chapter.
There was some
Really cool.
some interesting tidbits anyway. So I think we're gonna cap off, but we'll I mean not immediately, but in the next 10 to 20 minutes. So let's finish Kaladin off. Let's get
Finish
him.
up Kaladin, yeah.
Let's finish him. Let's get him caught up. Yeah, let's get him caught up, and then let's think about next week. We got part 3. We are definitely not going to get all the way through part 3, but there's going to be a lot to talk about. But let's go through it, and then we'll be all through part 2. Dalinar, Adolin, we'll be up through Kaladin. We've obviously had an entire part break from Shallan, which I already know will be amended. So
I feel like it needs to be, because I love her.
yeah, you're about in for a treat.
She's good.
I love her and I love Jesna and I just love it, okay?
So you're
So
in for a treat.
Kaladin, where did we leave off with Kaladin?
When they were in the chasm,
Yeah, so they're in the
recovering
chasm.
the equipment.
He does the spear move. He also makes a deal shortly after that, kind of winning them with the apothecary,
Right.
selling those reeds that they find out during
Not the
Rock
reeds, but the ointment.
the ointment
Or the
from
sap.
reeds,
Yeah, the actual
reed sap,
ointment.
which that's where he finds out that they've been upcharging it specifically, but they're also having trouble finding it, and he thinks to himself like, well, good thing I got a Spren
Spren
help find
helping
it.
me out.
Yeah.
And he sells it for a month's worth.
No, he sells it for half of what they sell it for, but half of what they sell it for is more than a month's worth of what they would earn
Of a soldier.
of a soldier, not a slave.
Not even necessarily a
Yeah.
slave, which is crazy.
Yeah, a month's earnings for a soldier. So they're doubling that what they're making. So he's still making a profit.
Absolutely.
So it's a great deal for them, and it allows him to solve the problem of feeding his injured guys.
Yes, because he makes that large stew and
And his-
all of his men eat.
They start doing that nightly stew.
He's getting some more loyalty, and I think I think maybe the last statement in that chapter really sums it up well with where we leave off with Kaladin. It says, he's really kind of gained the allegiance of most of the people in the group. Now he just needs time to get some use out of that.
Yes.
Like he needs the time to be able to utilize that
Yeah.
so that they can live.
Which is actually an issue because of the fact that their lifespans tend to be extraordinarily short.
right.
Yeah.
So, something to say, man. So we've got
But not only that, we also should highlight the fact that other bridge leaders
Ooh, yeah.
don't like him.
Right. They don't. Kaladin is really turning Bridge 4 around, and because Bridge 4 has gotten better for the people there, they were previously bottom dog. And all the other groups had. Well,
At
they
least
always
we
had.
aren't Bridge 4.
Exactly. It's like, you know what? We're like the bottom, but at least we're not the bottom of the bottom.
Right.
But now they're not necessarily that.
So now the other bridge
Well,
leaders don't have that.
Definitely now they're not because Bridge 4 gets a nightly stew.
Exactly. So there, it's kind of like getting rid of that whole, we're going to punish you by sending you to Bridge 4. Do it. I get more food.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
Live longer.
in itself.
Medical treatment.
Yeah, you know what I mean? When it in itself has a really huge,
Cheers on that.
which I can understand why like the leaders or the other bridge leaders would be upset by it, because it's kind of taking effect to the allegiance or their superiority over the bridgemen.
Right.
They don't
Right.
want these people to become organized figures because they know that there's too many of them.
So that's what's really interesting, and I'm going to break down for a little bit. Kaladin is clearly a commander and a soldier, and he always talks about he's missing something. He's missing something. He's like, why don't they let us use shields? Why don't you do this? But then we're in Dalinar's perspective, and Sadeas comes out and blatantly says they're bait.
I
They
want
draw
them to,
arrows.
Yes.
I want them to die. But my soldiers,
So that my soldiers can get
shot.
through.
It makes them distracted. I always come with double the bridges that I need, so that half of them can die. Kaladin doesn't realize that yet.
But do you think the effectiveness of them being bait is eventually going to dwindle once the archers realize they're not taking out as many of them as they used to? Or do you think that this makes them more effective bait?
The thing is that you got to keep in mind that Kaladin is only one bridge of extremely many bridges. I mean, there's
that's
probably
true, yeah.
so like the thing is like even though Kaladin's guys are taking less arrows, that doesn't do anything to bridge crews. They just start focusing on other people. You know, like the thing that is important, and I will say this is important, is that Kaladin does not understand that tactic yet, and he doesn't understand
Right.
it because in his mind.
He doesn't think that you should throw away lives.
Why
like
would
that.
you throw away lives? But he doesn't understand. Sadius is the kind of guy who's going to say
Their lives are not very
they're
meaningful.
not
They're
meaningful.
criminals.
Just toss them.
Right.
Toss them. You know, toss
It
them.
kind of
and my
sounds to
soldiers
me
are
like Kaladin and Dalinar
Yes.
have more in common with how they think. things
Yes.
should be
And
run.
I feel like
And they seem suspiciously close to each other at this point in time.
yes, I feel like they're
They're
gonna
so
come.
far
I
from
feel
each
like they're
other.
gonna intertwine.
Hey, didn't
Yeah.
in one of the later chapters, didn't one of Dalinar's subordinates come up to him and say, "Hey, can we at least train a bridge crew so we can get around a little bit faster?"
Yeah.
And Dalinar approved it. He said, "Yeah,
You know
you can
what?
train one
Let's
bridge
try it."
crew." Yeah. So
Which was a total failure.
they failed.
But then
Yeah.
his brothers or his son is like, you know what? That was your first attempt. Let's try.
Let's re-engineer
Let's
it. He
re-engineer
said,
it.
"Don't abandon it." Adolin said,
Let's learn from our
re-engineer it."
mistakes and
Yeah.
do.
Which
So
Maybe we just need to find a better bridge leader. so-
right. I wonder where. Awesome.
interesting, very, very interesting comments. I have to say a little bit out of that only because I finished the first book. I will tell you that there's a lot of surprises left.
Nice.
I feel like Navani.
Navari.
Navani.
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 I think Navani.
I thought it was
I
Navani.
had
Navani.
it pulled up on my iPhone.
I feel like she's gonna play a much larger
It's-
role
you were right,
in this
it's
next
Navani.
part.
Navani is definitely key. You could tell. I mean, just look at how she approached, and Dalinar was immediately like, "Why are you here?"
Yeah.
Yep.
Shit. And then she's kind of like, "Well, you know, my son." And then what does Yasna say to her?
You know,
Oh,
keep
it's
her,
so
good.
keep her at a
bites.
distance.
She bites.
So you can tell who got whose genes in this mix.
Yeah.
Real quick side note. I know we've really talked a lot about Dalinar. His character is so awesome, but I think that he is not utilizing a potential ally in Navani.
Oh.
Even though he gets tons and tons of warnings of like, don't trust her. Navani is not afraid to come up to him and be seen publicly talking to him.
Also-
she might be able to lend some assistance.
She gives him some straight up truth.
right.
Plus, she's
right.
super intelligent.
Yeah. I think that honestly, Navani can be more of a help to Dalinar rather than
Agreed.
like something to be
hindrance.
feared.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And you know why I think that? Because she seems to be a charmer. She doesn't even bring her own courts people or anything. She just borrows them from the other
yeah.
people's.
Yeah.
Like she's a boss. She's got a
says-
charm about her. Like she's strikingly beautiful. Everyone says that she is just.
Well, they also
Do you think there's
say
a part of
lady-
him that feels like he can't
He can't be around her and
be as
still
trusting of
be
her
loyal to his
because he
brother.
knows she's so much smarter and knows that she's a politician and knows that she could use him however she wanted?
I think
That's
that he
very
knows
true.
that, Brett, but I think that the real problem isn't that. I think
doesn't
it's
trust
that it's
himself
his
around her.
brother's wife.
Yeah, he doesn't
His
trust himself around
dead
her.
brother's wife. That's what the problem is.
Oh, and he used to be in love with her?
And he
It's
used to
just
be in love with her.
propriety.
He
And
even
she
said,
even explains
Yeah.
that she didn't go with him because she was scared because he was fucking crazy. Which
Yeah.
kind of brings me to
Right.
the fact that he was like,
Of which he's less crazy now.
he's much less crazy now because now he's covering his war-stricken self.
Yeah.
And she's like, that's
Yeah.
why I find you fascinating.
so
Yeah.
she did. He even explains that she literally pitted him and his brother against each other.
Yeah.
to get
When they
for
were
her.
back when they were courting
Yeah.
as youths.
And then, of course, she chose. In Dalinar's mind, she's like, well, of course she chose my brother because he was going to be the king. But there may have been a lot more to it, which she enlightened on a little bit. She's kind of like,
which is kind of interesting. Like it makes me want to
fucking war crazy.
It makes me want to learn more about that actual past.
Yeah.
Me too.
So there's a lot there, certainly. But it's really interesting that now that the time is changing, Dalinar finds himself, and everybody's stating, "You're just like him when he was before he died.
Yeah.
You're
Gamelon.
the
So
code,
interesting.
you and the codes, and you and this, and you and that, and that's the exact direction that Galavar was taking. Which,
But what I think is really
That's
cool.
kind of what made me start thinking that he was having the visions, because they're becoming so similar. That's why I thought Galavar was possibly having the visions from reading the book. And
Something-
that somebody is doing something.
So there's a lot to come in part 3, man. We're gonna get some good information. That is for sure. I'm really pumped for it.
I feel like there's a lot of things that come up in this part of the book where Jasna brings up like how did they get shard plates or shard armor,
Right.
and that maybe was not the reason why they attacked, and all this other stuff, which I thought was really interesting. But also, I want to come back to the fact that I wasn't here when you were talking because I was blowing my nose when you guys talked about the fact that Sadeas, like, should we trust
Sadeas.
him, and Sadeas, and how we think that they blame each other and stuff. And I think
Yes.
I heard that you guys said that if you were Sadeas,
Sadius.
you would blame Dalinar more because he was drunk.
I said that, and I believe that because
Yeah.
Dalinar blames Sadius in a way because Sadius ran unarmed. He was basically the decoy that failed.
Right.
But to be honest, Sadius wasn't drunk,
But
and he was participating.
But-
he did a part.
he has shard armor, and he had a chance to stay by the king's side and protect him. So I can understand
that. I
Dalinar's
understand
point
that
of
he
view.
could still blame it, but it's hard for me. It's hard for me to take Dalinar's side in that when he says, you know, you could have, maybe worn your shard armor and fought by his side, but you ran as a decoy. Well, I'd be like, you were passed out drunk, so you weren't doing anything, nothing. At least I did something. So F off.
Well, I was following the Alethi tradition that you tell me that I need to come back to.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? That's true. That's true. And actually, guess what? And one of the reasons that Dalinar might be following those codes is because his brother said, "Follow the codes tonight."
And he
brother."
didn't. And that's why he's resenting to himself and that whole idea. So I don't know. I feel like I could totally understand where Dalinar is coming from. And I really feel like he's onto something. And no, I don't think that these visions are wrong, and I don't think that they're evil.
I don't think they're evil either,
I think they're
but
enlightening.
What do you guys think about Dalinar?
I'm not
stepping
sure
back?
that they're not.
I don't like it.
I think.
What was the question?
What do you
What
think
do we
about Dalinar stepping down?
Yeah. Deferring power to Adolin.
Yeah.
I think that that's probably the right call because Adolin was, getting increasingly more and more pressured to do something. And Dalinar wasn't really going to do anything on his own. Adolin had to keep persuading him, like, look, you're not doing what people want you to do. You need to realize, this is not what the Alethi are like.
It's too bad he couldn't find a balance.
Right. It is because I think in deep down, Dalinar is probably could make an amazing Alethi general if there were more other minds like him. But unfortunately, all the others lordlings are just too different, and they're just going to ostracize.
If
Dalinar.
he could understand, if he could not understand that he understands it, if he could accept that and then use it to his benefit.
Right.
So, because the thing is, he tried to do joint runs. Mm-hmm. How many times? He tried every single...
With every other High Prince.
High Prince.
Except for Sadeas.
He even offered them the first shard plates and the victory.
Right.
But they
The
still
shark
denied
armor.
it. Yeah.
Because they're untrustful and they don't believe it.
They feel like he's trying to do it to win some sort of fame or...
jockey for power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you. And I think that he is realizing that his old self and this new way of thinking are completely different. And he is realizing that the fact that he's struggling so hard with it is going to be incredibly hard for somebody else that doesn't have the same life experience that he does. So he's kind of like, you know what? It's maybe I need to step outside of this role and become more comfortable with what I'm learning or what I'm doing, and let my son carry on.
Once you advocate, you have no power.
I agree. No, I agree.
That's why Navani's
But
like,
you have to
don't
think about the fact
do
that his
that.
son does keep him in a high regard.
Yeah, but
Right.
once you but his son is also an opening disagreement with him. Open disagreement.
Yeah.
Very open. Now they respect each other, but if you give Adolin the power, he's probably a great commander. But at the same time, you step back. Guess who gets to step over what you're saying now, and guess who doesn't have the perspective that Dalinar has? Adolin does not.
Yeah. No, I agree. I
So-
agree. Like, I think I'm not happy.
That's why
with it.
Navani says you're making a mistake.
Yeah.
Because if you step down,
You're losing all the power that you have. What little that
Well,
you have now,
see-
I guess.
I feel like one of the problems is the fact that it seems that if the sources are to be trusted, it seems that a lot of ancient knowledge that for some reason kind of started going by the wayside, that Dalinar really seems to be connecting with and putting faith in, is in direct opposition to what Alethi culture is.
Yeah.
It's,
And
you
what is
know,
the religion called? Venitrian or
Something like that.
Vatyrian? What is it?
no, it's
Venetrian.
Venetrian.
It's VO something.
Yeah.
Venetian, not Venetian. What was it? And we will look this up and provide this answer later. Until then, you will be talking about the Alethi religion.
Throw in the edit.
It's completely different than the old religion or the old
The
ideas.
Radiance. Yeah.
Well, the Radiance, remember, he's reading the book.
The Way of
Codes.
Kings. Yeah.
The Way
Way
of
of
Kings,
Kings.
which is the
So,
actual,
a
one of
book
the
of the
only
Radiance.
books that has the old
Yeah.
literature. Or,
Well, it's funny because they're like, you can't use that book because it's evil. But they're thinking about the Radiance. The Radiance use that book. It's the Radiance codes. They're like, you can't use the codes from the Radiance. The codes all sound amazing. They sound right.
they sound amazing. Yeah.
But they don't use them because the Radiance betrayed them. They're evil. You can't use the Radiance. So he has this problem right now where it's like, this is logically good. But
Yeah.
society is not reading it. They are portraying
Right.
it.
This is
really
against
bad.
everything
Yeah.
I've
Exactly.
grown up.
Right.
I mean that
So-
other culture had the same thing with the gambling and the inability to predict the future or prophesize at all. It seems like an overcorrection to the point where they have now taken things that potentially have been tried and true for longer than their culture's been around and just done almost the opposite. You know,
Agreed.
rather than serving the dark eyes and leading with a kind of softer hand, it seems like they just enslave them or treat them poorly. It's like they've done the opposite of what seems to have worked for so long before, possibly.
Yeah, I feel like when the voice talks about unite them, it's not necessarily talking specifically about the Alethi, because
Yeah.
that's not the only part of the world. That's not all that there is in
Yeah.
this world. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you need to unite the fact that all people. You
So,
need to have a certain sort
how-
of common ground.
Just to give it a breaking point and an ending point, maybe. Think about this. You got the Alethi, but then you got the Shin. You've got
the Parchment.
the Horn Eaters.
The Horn
Parchment.
Eaters.
There's a unite them that seems he's coming from this perspective of the Alethi, but
And he's still only stuck in that, and he needs to expand his.
so we'll
And I
close
think
out
abdicating it might give him that kind of. It might allow him to get that outside view.
perspective.
Might be able to spend time actually learning.
Yeah.
Well, remember, Alethi men don't pursue knowledge.
Well, I feel like he's kind of getting past that.
Interesting.
Especially with the fact that he has such a high regard for his niece, Jasna.
Yeah.
Well, he has like unyielding or undeniable trust. Like she's one person that he's just like, yes, we need her.
Isn't
I
that
want her,
interesting?
and I trust her.
He
And
trusts her more than
her
anyone.
mother
Right.
is like she's a heretic.
Yeah.
Which, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. Like, what is the connection that he has with her that he feels like she is unyielding? Or
Well,
like,
it's clear that they're on the same page, and some other people aren't. So,
which is awesome.
all right. So we're gonna close it
So
out.
really quick, it seems like the religion is called Vorin.
Vorinism. Vorinism.
Vorinism. I told you it was VO.
Good job. Thank you, Brent. All right, so we're gonna close out. We've talked Kaladin. We've talked Dalinar. We've talked Adolin. We've basically gotten through part 2.
Yes.
Part 3 is a mindfuck and it's crazy. So you're gonna have fun.
Can we learn more about Renarin, please? I like him.
Minoran, yeah.
So Renarin,
And then also we'll
is
talk about
awesome.
the interludes before part 3. The interludes that are right before part 3.
Yes, the interludes are absolutely mind-boggling.
And hopefully more
Yeah,
rock.
they're really good. I want to talk about them right now so bad.
You guys, you have no idea yet. That's
Brett,
why
I love
said,
you.
That's why I said we're gonna split this. This next part is gonna be well worth it.
And hopefully
It's gonna
more
be
wit.
hard.
It's gonna be lit.
All right. So anyway, we're closing out today. You've only got 4 of us, but we're closing out.
Jeff,
It's
I
me,
see
the
that your
demon,
cup is empty.
JP. You
Perhaps
got-
could that be because you drank it all?
My cup is empty because I did drink it all.
But then again, when has there ever not
I
been an
can't do
empty
this.
cup in front of Jeff?
That's true. God damn.
Today you get an actual equal perspective from 2 light eyes and 2 dark eyes.
Right? It was a very balanced outlook.
Yes, you're
Balanced
welcome.
Outlook. And we'll leave it at that. So cheers until next week. This is Lit Literature. We're the Shoutouts, and have a good one.
Signing off again.
Nice. Cheers. Have a good week.